Everybody, welcome to another episode of What a Hell of a Way to Die. We have Joe Kassabian on from the Lions Led by Donkeys. Joe, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Good. We have Joe on, not only because he is a wonderful lefty military type, but also Joe has a brand new book. You remember Joe from previous books, such as Hooligans of Kandahar, in which we all learned horrible and horrific things about Kandahar, not like in a war crime way, but just in how gross soldiers are.
It was actually just about a year, almost exactly a year ago to this day. I was on the show for Hooligans.
Yeah, so a book a year. So you really need to like kick it up a notch to get to like Dean Koontz levels. You need to be doing like 7 books a year.
I know I'm actually going to go to the local college and kidnap English majors and make them work on sci-fi books in my basement.
You should get on the William Johnstone grift, like whoever's running that, and write Trigger Warning 2. Like, just do just go full like hardcore right wing with it.
I mean,
that's where the money is, as we're all learning on the left. It's just like shit, man. It's being sincere keeps you broke. Being a grifter, man, that's where the money's at.
Say what you will about right wing grifters, but they're a fucking loyal customer base.
Yeah. Fucking Ben Shapiro got more money than I do. I'll guarantee you that.
Yeah, and he sells brain pills and Joe, bad journalism.
So, Joe, this time around, it's we're doing fiction. It's a science fiction, Citizen of Earth.
Yep.
So what's going on with this book, Joe? Tell me about your book.
So I would like to think that this is the first book in a 3-part series. I feel like I should warn everybody before if they pre-order, like you're investing some time, I guess. But unlike George Martin, I'm only 30. I'm healthy, and if I die before I finish them, it'll be a surprise to everybody. So it's the story of
they made Generation Kill into an HBO series. So fingers crossed for Hooligans of Kandahar.
I'm still waiting for the phone call, man. Nobody's giving me the time of day. So Citizen of Earth started as I wanted to write more after Hooligans, which is good since, I'm a writer, but I didn't so I'm not like a diehard sci-fi fan. But I am a diehard like military sci-fi fan. Like I've always loved Old Man's War and Forever War, stuff like that, before I lived it. And I wanted to write my version of that. But I was also heavily influenced by like Orwell and things of that nature, because like he lived through the real thing and then continued to write fiction, kind of using that as like a vehicle. Like he knew the sights and the sounds and the smells and everything, and it was a lot easier to write and to talk about and to conceptualize when you made it happen to someone else rather than like telling your own story. So I decided to kind of write a version of myself that's probably a little bit more annoying. I'm not really sure. He's a slacker. He's a 17-year-old that graduated from high school by the skin of his teeth. But in this world, the military isn't like the last hope for shitty white trash such as myself. It is like it's supposed to be honorable. And on the other side of it's you can also be sentenced to service as a crime for like penitence to the chairman of the United of Earth. He rules what's known as the Central Committee, and that's what happens to our titular hero as he gets sentenced to 3 years of service in the Earth Defense Forces. And before his time in the EDF, there's really been no true first contact between humans and aliens. Like we both know each other exists and we don't like each other. The humans are incredibly xenophobic towards aliens and even other humans in the universe. Like Mars is constantly in rebellion for generations and generations. So Martians are pale skin and like almost have white hair, and they are kind of thought of as almost subhuman because they can't bask in the glory of the chairman because they're constantly in revolt. But the humans pretty much hate everybody who doesn't toe the party line. But within 6 months of of being drafted effectively via court order, our main character finds himself in the first alien human war.
Yeah, I have noticed there's a lot of and I'm only halfway through the book, and I can tell that you draw from a lot of Moon is a Harsh Mistress is a big one with the open rebellion of like the people on Mars. Old Man's it definitely has the smackings of Old Man's War, and a lot of other things, but a lot of those things are like that. Those are all science fiction things that I mean, but which is not to like say anybody's a hack. We all draw from everybody else, but like obviously there's a political bent on what you're doing as well. Like the main character, like I'm only halfway through the book. But I know just talking to you and just being and reading it, I can see what's coming. I can see that there's going to be some kind of, uprising, like some kind of proletariat uprising.
Yeah.
So, and you having a history podcast, kind of, I see where the science fiction comes from. Where do the politics come from?
So I dove heavily into a lot of the French Revolution because that's like my cup of tea when it comes to history, but also through like revolutions through Africa during the colonial times, during like the Great Grab there and the Great Game and shit like that. Like I wanted to kind of, so this does sound really bad, but as like a kind of someone who people call a historian, it's really hard to make people interested in really interesting uprisings against colonial masters and things like that when it comes to historical Africa, because like Americans don't care about black people. And that sounds really bad to say, but I mean, like, I really want to explain to them like the Anglo-Zulu War, and I want to explain to them like the Angolan Civil War and things like that, like how people cast off colonial masters and the imperial yoke and things like that, and they had to build their own new way, a good way. One of the heavier things that I pulled from was the Congo Free State, which was controlled by Belgium and King Leopold. When they finally fought for freedom, it wasn't like India or some of the other dominions of England, where there was a state apparatus in place and they just kind of moved in and took over. Like they were effectively abandoned. They had to rebuild everything from the ground up. Like I think when the Congo Free State became independent, they had 4 people in the entire country that had college degrees because it was illegal for them to go to college. So I wanted to pull a lot from that, like not just building up from the ashes, but also like you kind of have to build your own ashes, like you're starting completely over. But I wanted to like in the world that I created, nobody has any power except the Central Committee. Workers aren't in control of their lives, parents aren't in control of their families. Like you have a house issued to you. I believe I call it a family domicile unit. Like everything is as a cookie cutter, a nightmare. There's no empowerment of any kind. You don't vote. The only right that you have is the right to serve the Central Committee. So I wanted to build something that is organic. Like there's a lot of historical ideas involved. Like I pull heavily from the French Revolution. I pull heavily from Marx. I pull heavily from the Russian Revolution, especially. But I wanted it because I mean, this is a civilization or a society on Earth that I created that none of these ideas would be allowed to exist. I guess somebody called it Fahrenheit 451 in space, because like I made none of these things exist in this world because they're just not known about.
Yeah, everything's a brand new. Like you can see as your main character Vincent is going through it. He's obviously like, because he gets sentenced to serve, he's already not like committed, to it. He's not full into it. He's like, well, shit, I fucked up and now I have to do this thing. And so he's like perfect for radicalization because there's no like, he hasn't already been radicalized in one way or another. But what you're talking about with the current chairman's committee and everything, it's funny because it is kind of like it feels like two different kinds of socialism. Like in my perfect world, yes, I would be, people would have housing. Like you go
Oh,
and live in this
absolutely.
house, and you guys have, I imagine in your world, if you get injured or something, you don't have to pay for healthcare. You don't have to do any of these. Food is readily available. Nobody's hungry, but like it's still that oppressive yoke. It's like the difference between which is like when you argue with people about communism or socialism, you're just like, look, it doesn't have to be that way. Like we could
Right.
have cool communism too. We could have socialism where we're not dicks to each other. Like it's just a form of like, imagine all of that, but also like you can choose what you do with your life, or we can all do these great and wonderful things, and like those things are possible. So you have like you do kind of go from, and I guess it is kind of a national socialism, I guess, because it's all of Earth, like all humans, but like only Earth humans, not, as you said, the Mars humans. So they're,
Right.
Mars is colonnaded, and but it's not like, it's like in Moon is a Harsh Mistress. The people on the moon have been so far removed from Earth and everything that they're just not really a part of it anymore. They got their own language, their own speak, and everything.
Right.
Mars is kind of the same way. So you have that like you have a like, look, we can go from this weird like fascist national socialism into like a cool socialism, because like as you go along, like there's obviously the look, these are the aliens and they're the bad guys and we're gonna go kill them. Doesn't matter. They don't, the leaders of the army don't speak in any way other than calling the aliens animals, or just complete. I don't
Right.
want to say dehumanizing because they're not humans, but in that same kind of vein. And then like the first few aliens that you run across, like one of them is an asshole, and one of them like is just like, I could probably fucking sell these humans, and the other one is just like a kind of like freedom fighter, but also he's got his own shit going on, and it's immediately like you spend, as soon as you spend like 20 minutes with these aliens, you realize it's like there's a lot of shit going on like here. It's not just us versus them, and that's what
Absolutely.
Vincent is getting to see. He gets there and he's just like, okay, so these guys are bad, but you guys aren't necessarily with them, but you have your own like weird oppressive society, and like I'm very interested to see how that works, because like I said, it opens up immediately to like the first aliens that you're talking to are not their enemy, but also not really their friend. Like it's just kind of a, fuck, you humans are here and we have to deal with this now. And I guess we won't kill you, but also we're not happy you're here.
Right. So there's the Alliance, which is led by the Anarchs. And then there's the two, according to the Anarchs and the Alliance, the two lesser alien races of the Rai and the Muar. And the humans are always constantly taught that all these aliens work together to undermine greater humanity and united Earth and all these other things. And that just isn't the case. I mean, I think a lot of that goes back to, I mean, historically, and I know we've talked about it before, where not everything's black and white, where what you were talking, like what we were taught, all conflicts are not black and white. And if you believe they are, you're either simple or you're just purposely omitting a lot of facts that you need to do in order to believe something that makes you comfortable. And
oh yeah, yeah, like I think we were talking about that today in the Discord.
Yes,
we're talking about the Kurds. It's like, look, the Kurds, but also the Kurds. All right, let's not pretend that they're all a bunch of angels that have descended upon high to help us, fight against radical whatever. Like,
right.
Everybody who picks up a gun probably has some sort of weird problematic past,
Yes.
especially when you're coming to like large groups of people and nations and nationalities and stuff. Like, there are very few. Like, I mean, even you can't be 100% behind the proletariats of the French Revolution. There was some bad shit they did too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a whole war in the Vendée where it was almost effectively a genocide against royalists. Now, take that as you will. Generally, those aren't good things, which
Right.
I also use in my story. But one of the things that I like to impress upon, like in the backlog of, I guess, the history of the fake world that I created, is a lot of it's citizen based. Like, they don't go to school, they go to ethics school, and then you become a citizen upon graduation. That's something that to me, like especially recently, the movement that there's no such thing as an illegal human means a lot to me, especially as someone who is descended very recently from immigrants. But on Mars, they're not citizens because they constantly rebel. And one of the things they did on Mars was something that might sound familiar is they moved a whole bunch of Earthians from loyal committee worshiping Earthians onto Mars to breed the rebellion out of them and move into settler cities and things like that. So like I try to take all the really, really uncomfortable things that people don't like to talk about and put them in space where it's okay to talk about them.
Yeah, there's a couple of different. Science fiction has always come into two different groups for me. There's like the science fiction that is like this could easily be happening anywhere. We just have it happening in space,
right?
And then there's the science fiction that is, I want to explore something about the human condition, but I can't do that using normal, like within the realm of reality. So I need to add some science fiction in it, like Cynthia Bethea and I talked about the book Kindred, which is about slave ownership and slavery, and like it's like I need to find a way to put a black woman from the 1970s onto a plantation in the 1840s or whatever. How do I do that? I don't know. Time travel. How does it work? Doesn't matter. Not a point. Not the point.
Right.
It's science that the traveling's happening. I want to tell a story, and therefore I need to have this thing happen to do it. So, that this book kind of straddles both of that. It is open rebellion, and it is learning about revolution. As you said, your main character has to learn all these things because it's not like a book he can crack open and be like, oh, the French Revolution, oh, Maoism, oh, the Nazis. Like I can see parallels, to my society in this. So he has to learn all of them on his own, but also it is very much like a journey of the human condition. Not only for Vincent, you have to help me remind what's the girl's name.
It's Fiona.
Fiona, Fiona, who is a Martian and is kind of his love interest through it. Who one of the things about Martians is that your firstborn is just conscripted for life, and it's a way to keep these people down, keep the Martian population in check. And so you have somebody who's just like, my entire life has just been me living on the streets because it doesn't matter what I do. And so Fiona just has kind of I don't give a fuck. I'm ready for whatever.
Right.
So it's interesting to have these two characters with two completely different backgrounds, but at the same time converging onto kind of the same things. And I'm sure that there's going to be conflict between the two of them at some point with but it's all like it's like two different sides of leftism being like, I don't agree with you on this, I don't agree with you on that, but that's fine because I mean the main goal is we want to get everybody healthcare and make sure everybody's fed and everything. Like our broad goals are the same. We don't have to bicker over X, Y, and Z when we're trying to do these bigger things. So that's why I really like just the line straddling between something where you've got hard science fiction in a way, but also we're dealing with humans, we're dealing with humanity, and we're dealing with like very human kind of emotions and things with these aliens as well.
Yeah,
so I'm digging it. Like I said, I'm only halfway through, but I'm in.
Well, I don't think I can legally say what his name is because he works for the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, and they have
Canadians are illegal here.
They have very strict rules about what they can officially endorse if you work for them. So I sent him an advanced reader copy or an ARC to him a long time ago. He's also Armenian, so I use the Armenian hookup, which we all have. But he could not officially review it or like give me a blurb as it's known. But he sent me a thing, and he's like, "Yeah, man, like I thought I was reading a normal science fiction or military sci-fi until like the last 60 pages, and then you fucking changed everything." And so I'll just say keep reading all the way till the end.
Oh yeah, I'm in, man. Like I said, so I'm very interested to see where it goes and what you're going to be doing with the other books. I know you said you're already done with the rough draft of the second book, so hopefully we're going to be plugging you again. Hopefully in a little bit less than a year. Let's say 10 months this time.
It's
start working you up to it.
Yeah, it's a little ironic. It is May. It's about May 7th now when we're recording. During my deployments to Afghanistan, my first one was in May, and my second one was also in May. So the Hell of a Way to Die podcast has become my civilian version of deploying to Afghanistan.
All right, Joe. Well, now that we've talked about the book, you also, before we do that, you're going to have a book release party.
Yes, I am going to have a book release party. It is, so I know it's a little bit out of the way. I live in an out of the way town because I live in Washington State, where the only real working class people can afford to live in small towns that nobody's ever heard of. So it is being hosted at the 507 Brewery and Tap Room and Fill Station in Yelm, Washington, on the 17th, from 4 p.m. to close, which will be, I believe it's 11. I'll have books for sale there, both hardback and paperback, as well as whatever copies of the Hooligans of Kandahar I have left. It'll be a pretty informal thing. I'll be hanging out, drinking, and I'll do a Q&A at some point. But it's a pretty relaxed atmosphere. I invite everybody to show up.
Yeah, so all you fucks out on JBLM, you need to go down. It's only about an hour away or so, right?
From JBLM, it's about 30 minutes.
Okay, so yeah, y'all got no excuse. So if you're out on JBLM, I'm sure that we've got a couple people up there. Go check out Joe. Go buy his books. Go support the troops. Otherwise you hate America.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
That's true. Also I know we have a communal Discord now. Nick will also be there, who is the co-host on Alliance Led by Donkeys, and Civil Rich. So come on by.
One of these days, man, you're gonna get Nick into a zoo.
I swear to God, I'm promising.
You keep taking him to places that aren't zoos, and every time like you take Nick somewhere, I'm just like, why aren't you taking him to a zoo?
This summer, it's happening.
I don't even think zoos are all that great, man. But like, I just feel like there's a part of his childhood he's missing out on.
That one of many.
All right, Joe. So we're both left leaning. We're both veterans. We both have spent some time in these shit ass forever wars. So I've got a couple of things that I wanted to go over with you. First thing that we're going to talk about is an article from the National Interest, nationalinterest.org. Anytime I see a .org, I assume that it's going to be like fancy and smart. Unfortunately, this one is not.
No.
So this first thing we have is it's an article called "Here's a Way to Lose a War: Challenge the U.S. Army to a Fight."
Oh boy,
now, Joe, I don't know if you remember the last time that we were challenged to a fight. I believe that a couple of towers were knocked down in New York using airplanes. I assume that was a challenge to come talk some shit. Now, recently, one of our illustrious 4-stars, General H.R. McMaster's, specifically said, "Look, we're going to be in Afghanistan until the insurgency is no longer," which is code word for we're literally never leaving Afghanistan.
Yeah,
like every time you shoot a quote insurgent, you're just creating like 3 more. So it's just
right.
It's a fucked up hydra that we're fighting out there. So it's very interesting to me that this would come up. So Joe, we're gonna go through this, and we're gonna discuss a few things here on why these things actually don't fucking matter when it comes to a war, especially the way that we war. All right, so our first one is next generation combat vehicles. Now, you're a tanker. You were a tanker, correct?
Yes, I was.
Okay. So, since the 1980s, the backbone of the U.S. Armed Forces has been the M1 Abrams tank, the M2 Bradley infantry fighting vehicle. Both designs have been upgraded and modernized over the years. The latest M1A2 has far better sensors and electronics. These are essentially 40-year-old designs meant to stop Soviet tanks across the Fulda Gap. Sure. But we're going to talk about the Army's next generation combat vehicle.
Of course.
Which is, which I don't know if you've seen it. It looks like a fucked up. It's like if you took a striker and a tank and made it fuck, and like its weird love child came out and was just screaming until you put it down. Uh, so the next generation combat vehicle program aims to create a 21st century armor fleet, including a new battle tank, new main battle tank, infantry fighting vehicle, self-propelled gun, and even robot tanks.
Of course.
BAE is pitching several designs. The Swedish designed infantry carrier, but whatever vehicle are chosen will reflect the enormous changes in technology over the past 4 years. Active protection systems to stop anti-tanks, missiles, tactical networks, even drones as an integral part of the vehicle system. Joe, tell me about the tank. Tell me about how useful the tanks are right now.
So the M1, so I have to admit, I was on M1A1. I went to the class to be on an M1A2 and never actually got to do it because Army reasons. I don't fucking know. Now the M1A1 is a solid tank, I have to admit. I mean, for a main battle tank, it's not bad. I mean,
it's formidable.
Yeah,
it's a big tank.
It's
got a big gun on it. It's got a lot of armor. It's great.
I mean,
a lot of people buy it. A lot of people use them.
It's out of date, sure, but I mean, if you look at the U.S. Army and who we're fighting, not who they continuously tell us we're going to fight, like Iran and China and Russia, and I would argue even then the M1 is fine. It doesn't.
Yeah, I don't.
It's fine.
The fucking Russians, like their one aircraft carrier stopped working. Like,
yes,
I don't know. And like, what do we load swing? Are we like load swinging fucking tanks over to Russia or something? Like, I don't know what. And this is really indicative too, because one, none of these things exist.
No,
these
do
are
not.
all planning stages. These are all things like, oh well, maybe we're going to do these things, and there are like updates that we've done, like the top turret that has like the machine gun on it, that has a sensor on it.
So that's known as like on a tank. It's like it was the SEP package, is the M1A2 SEP package. It had like, it looks like R2D2 on top. That was like the big upgrade, and that's, as far I know, they added extra armor on the bottom to counteract IEDs and things like, which is something I never had to worry about because then the Army has no tanks in Afghanistan. But yeah, I mean, there's been continuous improvement. I'm not saying that it's flawless. It's not. But I mean, if you're thinking about, and I assume this article is talking about a peer-to-peer conflict because it's talking about China and Russia. By and large, the Russian military is still a backwater. I know a lot of people are going to hate me for that, but it's true. They have one aircraft carrier, which is almost continuously broken down. Alpha Foxtrot, which is a blog that I've written for in the past, has like a hilarious series of articles about it just constantly breaking down.
It's as if like the only aircraft carrier we had was the Kitty Hawk.
Yeah, like yeah. And
which for those of you who don't know is nicknamed the Shitty Hawk. It was built in the 60s. It's constantly breaking down, and they mothballed it. It's coming out of mothball, by the way. They're gonna fucking start fielding that again because we don't have enough aircraft carriers, apparently.
Of course not, even though we have more than everybody by like 3. Also, I think the Kitty Hawk may have been built around the same time as the Russian one, and the name is escaping me. It's like the Admiral something or other. But
yeah, it's pre-Vietnam. Yeah. I'm sorry, anything pre-Vietnam should not be being fielded anywhere.
Right. Like the M4. But so like another thing is they built everybody's been talking about, I believe it's called the T-10 Armada main battle tank that the Russians came up with that just broke the fuck down during the only parade they brought it out on. And the vast majority of their frontline combat units are still fielding T-72s. Like they never even got the T-90 upgrade. Like they're fucking broke, man. Like the sheer amount of money we spend on our military is comically outsized to China, which like they have more people in their army than we do in the country, but we still spend more on our military.
Now, let's be honest, Joe. If I had like a platoon, I have a platoon of M1 A1 main battle tanks. Platoon's 4 tanks, right?
Yep.
How many T-55s can I throw at that platoon to take it out?
Well, each tank
Like,
can hold
4 at a time, force on force. So
4 at a time. I would say until the M1s run out of ammo.
really, okay.
The T-50, I mean, and this is an inside joke on my podcast. So I know how you picked the T-55, but
The people's tank.
it's a people's tank, and the T-55 is the AK-47 of tanks. The day that we have a civil war on Mars, the T-55 will see service, but which I may have put in my book, but. Yeah, the T-55 lacks any ability to defeat an M1A1.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah,
But I mean, also understandable. It's like an old. I mean, the 55 is like the year it was built, wasn't it?
I believe it was years fielded. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, understandable that even a Cold War era tank would be able to take it out.
Oh yeah.
All right. So the next up, we have maneuver short range air defense. Snuggled under the protection of the U.S. Air Force and facing low-tech opponents like the Taliban, the Army's tactical air defenses have lapsed since the Cold War. But with the proliferation of drones and the threat of high-tech Russian and Chinese aircraft and helicopters, which, no, the skies aren't looking so friendly for the ground pounders. For now, the Army is opting for a stopgap solution that mounts Stinger anti-aircrafts onto Strykers. Okay. And then the Army plans to mount directed energy weapons, lasers, on Strykers. So, Tom, if you're listening, congratulations. You're going to put freaking lasers on your Strykers, which can engage targets more quickly than missiles and don't run out of ammunition other than electricity.
Oh boy.
Okay, so
they have no concept of what an actual laser is, do they? The Air Force tried to make a laser. The Air Force tried to make a laser, and they had to put it in, I believe it was a 747 passenger jet, maybe something similar to that, because the actual lasers, to cause physical damage to something, require a incredible amount of chemicals to burn through and create that laser. And it did like shoot down missiles, I guess, in training, but it's like a giant flying weapons, like chemical weapon facility, effectively.
It's a meth lab that can shoot down that can shoot down missiles, I guess.
I feel like the meth lab might be safer.
And this is again, so high-tech Russian and Chinese aircraft and helicopters. I mean, I feel like that's all ours. Like, what is I can't so the only ADA air defense artillery that I ever came across were doing what you did, which was literally not their job, and instead were doing infantry bullshit.
Right.
So, and the ADA people, like, also ADA is not like good even on its own. Like, it's not that good at taking out shit. So, and I'm all about us doing more to be able to shoot down missiles that are coming at you, obviously. But like the idea that this is something that we're proud of, when again we don't have anything that does this yet.
No,
there is all of this so far, and the next one that we're going to get to. All of these things are theoretical, like they don't exist.
Yeah.
This is like an EMP. It's not a thing yet, but it's not a thing now.
Yeah.
So far, it sounds like currently, if you wanted to win a war, you should start a war with us because we don't have any of this shit.
We do have Stingers.
To defeat you. we do. Have we bolted them onto Strykers yet?
Nope.
I don't know
as far as I know. But also, it's a weapon from the fucking 70s, like late 70s, early 80s. Like, this is literally what we gave to the Afghan Mujahideen in Operation Cyclone. Now we just want to fucking bolt that bitch onto a Stryker? That's the future we got?
I mean, if it works, man, I don't know. They'll probably call it like the Stryker 4, and it'll have like a bunch more electronics in it that will all fry and never work, and nobody will actually get proper training on it anyway.
That sounds about right. And this whole concept sounds like the Millennium Challenge 2000. Like they're just like, oh, these are the weapons that we have planned, so this is what the weapons we're gonna just train with. Or I think this person just whoever wrote this, I haven't even looked. But I mean, you can tell a lot from the website, from the ad that popped up while I'm trying to read it. And it says, so the ad is a picture of a whole bunch of Border Patrol guys. And it says, poll, is Nancy Pelosi putting American lives at risk by refusing to build the border wall? Yes or not sure? No is literally not an option.
It's never an option, Joe. Not when it comes to the border wall.
Yeah. So like, I feel like they're not coming at, and also like their concept of lasers is hilarious. Like it says, there's no limit of ammunition except for electricity. Like we're gonna run this shit out of like the Tesla Gigafactory, and like I don't.
There was like an idea. Is like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we fielded like tiny nuclear reactors to stuff and then put that out in the field so that we could power the electronics, like basically like a little power substation to power everybody, which like, no, absolutely not. That wouldn't be a good idea at all. Like,
yeah,
at all.
You know what would make the Forever War better? More nukes. We should just strap
Right.
fucking nukes onto everything. That reminds me of like the 50s and the 60s and shit when they're like, we need to build more weapons. So like, we're going to build the Davy Crockett fucking recoilless rifle nuke weapon. And then they built a ramjet that was powered by a nuclear reactor. So it's the jet engine that was a nuclear reactor. So as it flew, it would rain down nuclear fallout on everything it flew over. Like these people have diseased brains, man.
Yeah, so even like the army.mil article about the lasers is that a 50 kilowatt laser cannon will be placed on strikers with a demonstration plan for 2021. At the same time, SMDC also plans to place 100 kilowatt lasers on an FMTV medium tactical vehicle. Again, these things don't exist, and like I don't know what you think you're gonna do with a laser. Like, yes, it's faster, but like it's really like. Lasers don't work that way. I don't think. Like, I don't know. Maybe army scientists know something more than I do.
Oh shit!
But the thing is that what's up?
Update on the ad. Breaking scandal. Democrats in a panic as the Vatican secret is exposed. This website is fucking awesome, man.
The Pope opened up the fifth seal and it was the Pizzagate seal.
It's pretty obvious that the secret to all this is we need the Vatican to be involved in our weapons manufacturing.
I mean, they got the money.
Yeah, I mean, the army. So, like, the army doesn't even want the Striker. Like, it's been a miserable failure by all measures. It doesn't
even want the tanks.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't want tanks. They're like for forever. The army said, "Stop making tanks. We don't need tanks. We don't field tanks. We don't want tanks. We don't use them." And like some dipshit, like Iowa senator, wherever Abrams are made, like in a factory, is just like, nope, you need more tanks. We're going to keep making more tanks because I can't have these people lose their jobs.
I believe...
And that's it. So we've got a shitload of tanks.
I believe you can blame the fine people of my home state, Michigan, for that. Our bad.
Yeah, fucking Motor City up here.
Yep.
Fucking Tank City, too.
Well, nobody's buying fucking cars anymore, so...
We should start selling tanks to civilians. That'll work.
Yeah, I mean, fuck it. Why not? I mean, it's self-defense, right? I mean, just park that bitch outside of a school. It might as well.
Well, what we have next, though, for number 3, our third one is robot tanks.
Oh boy.
These were once the stuff of science fiction, but now the fact that the U.S. Army has a program called Optionally Manned Fighting Vehicles. Optionally manned. Tests. It's one of those self-driving Ubers with a gun on it.
It's a self-driving Uber, except the 17-year-old's operating it.
The Army has already robot tested a vehicle, an armed remote-controlled M113 armor personnel carrier, and is vigorously pursuing autonomous trucks that can haul supplies without a driver. I mean, what do you do when it gets blown up by an IED like they always do? Like, do you have
I don't know.
Do you have an autonomous wrecker and like autonomous like troops doing pulling security on this? Like, the fuck has anybody who's coming up with these ideas actually been to war?
Of course not.
Question here.
Of course not. And also, like, I like how their test concept is an RC car version of a fucking armored personnel carrier that's been around since Vietnam. Like, this is the same thing.
Yeah.
Is it like there's no weapon system on
if there's
it?
anything if there's anything that you could retrofit, it would be something that, has like four controls on the inside and was made to like, work in any conditions.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
can tell you from firsthand experience because I used to do opposition force or op 4 shit all the time, and we used to have to use 113s as our op 4 vehicles. They are dumb proof to drive. Like, I never used one before, and I showed up at op 4 like, hey, here's the 3 buttons that it requires to use correctly. You need literally 0 training. Here you go. Cool, you figured out a robot to do my job. It's not exactly cutting edge, man. Like, you could have done that with like 2 bits of string.
Yeah, all of this, and I understand like the need for advancing in technology, because that obviously makes things better. We can do more with when we advance technology. But like, it feels like we're hitting a point where it's just like we need to put more bells and whistles on shit.
Yeah.
Like a robot tank, like sure, I think in some situations like unmanned vehicles will be great, but like there's literally all kinds of human element that has to be a part of any operation, because a robot can't we both know war is unpredictable. Like,
yeah.
And you need to have people there that can, and yeah, people may fail, but like people also have the abilities to think quickly and change tempo and do these things. A robot's not necessarily going to do that.
No, not at all.
Maybe with enough AI, sure, but like I said, if your supply truck gets hit by an IED and you're in a convoy, you can do something about that. You've got a lot of people. You can call a wrecker. You can get, all this stuff. And like here in America, sure, you want to send a truck from Seattle to Tacoma or whatever, and not have a driver in there, or have a driver there only for like minuscule parts of it. That's fine, but like
it's really
literally
easy.
War, man. It's unfucking predictable.
It's really easy because that stretch of road's actually just a parking lot. And, it's interesting that they're so like they have a hard on for the army to do this when they want to make this fully autonomous fucking robo tank. And there's a reason why. So I know non-tank nerds out there probably don't know this, but most European countries have moved to having an autoloader, or like a mechanism to load main gun rounds into a tank. The US has never done that because we didn't trust it. And like numerous field tests have shown that humans always do the job better. And this is as recently as I believe the last version of the M1 A2 or A3, whatever the fuck they're calling it now, is supposed to run through the mid 2020s. So like even in the newest iterations of this vehicle, like no, we gotta stick humans in there. So I don't know what the fuck their idea is, but like even now they're like, nah, still can't rely on robots.
It feels like a grift to me from like all of these companies.
That's exactly what it is.
Like, yeah, it's like, look, you need to buy our shit, and our shit is going to be the newest and the bestest and the shiniest shit ever. And it's like, and then you field it up to these soldiers and you say, look, you've got this great shit, go out and do great things with it. But like, you haven't taken the time to like train anybody, teach them how to use it properly, or like bring experts out or send soldiers to go and become experts on it. Like, I don't know if you read one of the more recent ProPublica articles about the Navy and like all the shit they're going through when people are just like, I'm not trained for my job whatsoever.
Yeah.
And like that's what we're coming across. Like, are we really like I know that we have like the autonomous little wheeled drones and track drones.
Yeah, they fucking
go
suck.
out and like shoot a shotgun. Yeah, but you can go and like disarm an IED with it or something.
Yeah.
Like, and that's great. That's a wonderful use for that. And sure, it may not work all the time, but it is like a thing that you can use. It's a tool to use. It's not like okay, and this is it. Now this is how we do these things. And you still have a human element. The human is still like manipulating it and controlling it. And it just feels like what we should be doing is like, hey, why don't we like train the troops better? Why don't we spend more money and time on making sure that they're good to go to be able to use these things. Because I'm gonna tell you, like, we got brand new M4s, and I still got soldiers in my unit that don't know the fucking fundamentals of shooting. Like, don't know how to do sports, don't know.
Right.
It is like, these shiny new things are not going to help you. Like, if you don't know how to zero. So what's the point of this
Yeah.
that you're doing? So that's really where I fall on all this shit. It's just that it just feels like they see fucking America coming with these big sacks that have dollar signs on it. And they're like, shit, here's an F-35. Fuck it. It's catches fire sometimes. Buy it. Like, all right, fuck it.
Yeah. I mean, that's so. One of the biggest things that I ran into researching for my show was during the Iran-Iraq series. We ran into something like that, where the entire tactic of the Iraqi military, led by Saddam Hussein, was just to pour money into weapons, vehicles, the shiny jets, helicopters, missile systems, chemical weapons, shit like that, and not actually training people. And it led to like catastrophic failure. And that was, before 20 years of war, which, they only had 10, but, kind of the same thing if you stretch it into the Gulf War and the second Iraq War. But it is easier and more prestigious for a lot of organizations. And this is pretty characteristic of strongman dictatorships that want to look good. They just buy the newest shit. And they let it like just sit there and look pretty. And that's been something that's happened forever. Because I know America, even though we might be going down a really dark path right now, we don't exactly have to worry about a military coup. That's what they worried about.
Yeah.
I don't know what the thing is, what the main hitching point is. And I have someone very close to me, a very, very good friend who is an instructor at an NCO academy, and they constantly complain about soldiers not having basic soldier skills. And I think there was an article, maybe it was, I don't know, Army Times or something, which is a gossip rag, or maybe one of the other ones, Stars and Stripes, maybe, that said 60 to 70% of soldiers cannot complete basic soldier skills, which is shooting, moving, reading a map, just normal shit. They can't do it. But you want to give them robot tanks. Like, fucking priorities, man. I mean, this is the natural endpoint for a military and a society, like, stretched to its limits when it comes to just endless war. I wasn't in the military before 9/11. I was never in the military before it saw war. But I would like to think it was significantly more competent than what we have today. Because maybe I'm wrong. But like, for instance, we never really did training when I was in. Like, don't worry about it, you're just going to deploy. And how many people like me stayed in, got promoted, and is now like senior leadership, planning training, but they've never fucking trained before,
Yeah. And I was only in briefly before 9/11, but we did do training. And I know that there's probably somebody out there rolling their eyes and saying, well, it's the NCO's, duty to train.
Sure.
Which it is. Absolutely. But like, also those NCOs at this point probably weren't trained properly themselves. Probably not being given the necessary time and ability and ranges. Like, talk to any active duty NCO and ask them, like, who actually like runs a platoon or runs a squad, and be like, how cool and easy is it? And it's not, because not only are you having like being like an E5 or an E6 or an E7 in some situations, it's like you're caught between like a rock and a stupid place.
Yeah.
Where you've got the shit from above you and then the shit below you. And then you're stuck there, and you're just like, I'm trying to do the best that I can, and your leadership above you is shit, and therefore you can't do what you can for the people below you. And like, the military, every once in a while, it seems like every like year it does this whole like, we want to get back to basics with the soldiers, and it's like, that's great, cool. Let's break out our warrior tasks of training. Let's break out our level 1 books and, really go through some stuff. Let's go back through first aid. What do you do for a sucking chest wound? That's something that we should be teaching. and then 3 months later you're just back to doing nothing again.
Yeah.
And it's just really, really fucking disheartening. It's like, these are things that we're gonna need. It's that maybe we don't need them, but like there's things that we're supposed to know. And
Right.
and yeah, like you said, instead they want to give robot tanks. They want to buy robot tanks, and like there's just nothing shiny about like we set aside more money to do more training. There's nothing cool about we got all of our people on combat lifesaver courses and through CLS training.
Right.
That's not as fun as a robot tank. But like, let me tell you something. CLS courses, that's a week long, man. This shit's hardcore now. And they do. Did you ever do the CLS class?
I did it.
I imagined everybody did.
Yeah, I had to do it at least once before I deployed each time, and then they had to do it a couple other times, like just because it came up.
They make you go through that shoot house at the end.
Yep. Oh, yeah, with paintballs and shit. I got lit
so
up. And everybody only shoots for the balls.
Why would they shoot for anything else?
I don't know.
I mean, we went through like where we had to go through like, a battlefield and screams and everything and like patching people up and dark flashing lights and everything. And it's like, that's some intense training, man. That's good stuff. Like, that's good, like, keeping yourself calm in situations and getting things done. And we don't do that anymore. And it's really starting to show.
Yeah,
all right,
I agree.
Let's go to our next one. Future vertical lift. Just as Cold War era M1 tanks are being replaced, so are the Apache and Black Hawk helicopters that comprise Army aviation. The Future Vertical Lift program aims to develop a family of new helicopters, including attack and reconnaissance machines.
They literally tried this already.
Joe, the link here's the other thing. All the links in this article was published May 3rd. All the links that I've opened are from 2018.
Yeah.
And this one in particular is a brigadier general who's just like, yeah, we want to do this. We've got it in the budget, and hopefully by 2028, we'll have something. It's like, that's fucking 10 years from now. So again, not useful right now for picking a fight with America.
Yeah, this whole thing is. So have you ever heard of the Future Soldier program? I believe it was called the Future Soldier program. It was this decades-long just black hole of DoD financing that went into creating all of these fancy new helicopters and tanks and APCs and new Bradleys and new infantry fighting vehicles. Going down to our next entry, new long-range artillery. All of these things were on there, and then like a decade passed. I believe it was around like 2009, 2010. They're like, hey, let's see what happened with all this money. Literally nothing fucking came out of it. Like tens of billions of dollars got poured into this program. They never came up with anything out of it. And one of those, I believe one of them was like the Comanche helicopter, which is the same fucking thing they want to replace these with, but they cancel it because it sucked and it cost too much. And then just like, I think it was a couple months ago that someone said, oh yeah, we want to come with a piece of artillery that fires 100 miles or 200 miles or whatever it is. Like, but we have jets.
Right, that's mentioned. The fifth one is long range, like you said, long range artillery and hypersonic missiles, and it does say like, whatever the exact range, it's likely the Army will be deploying artillery that can reach hundreds of miles. That's just a missile, guys. Like, just get a missile.
Sorry, it's like 1,000 miles. It's 1,000 miles is what they want.
Yeah, which is literally just get a fucking Tomahawk, man.
Yeah.
Like, what do you need? What kind of like? It brings to mind that like. That Nazi, like, gigantic Big Bertha fucking thing that was on railroad tracks. And it was just like, this will shoot like 150 miles in that direction only.
Yeah.
Just stand over there and we'll shoot you with our giant fucking gun. Like, what are you fielding at this point that's going to shoot that far? And why aren't you just calling it a missile?
It's bullshit prestige weapons. Like, it's the same reason why. So everybody fucks with me. I own a Toyota Prius, and I'm a giant dude, but I fit inside it just fine. But there's no reason that like a car that costs $60,000 more and has like the stupid weird Tesla touch door handles, like it's still a fucking car. Like, the only difference is you wanted to spend a whole bunch of money So someone will look at you and be like, damn, he must have a lot of money. Like, that's all it comes down to. You can spend what are we spending now in the military? Fucking $7 trillion or something a year? $700 billion? We still can't beat the Taliban. Like, maybe just take a knee for a while, guys. Like, I don't think 1,000-mile piece of artillery is what we're missing here.
Right, like they're planning for all these wars that like admittedly we're not prepared for, and we never will be.
No.
I mean, how prepared can you be for a war? But also, like, you know, even if like China or Russia decided to attack, which would be insane, like on any, not just for like, oh, we could beat you up. Like, China makes too much money off of us. Russia doesn't have the ability. They don't, like, if we went head to head, if we went to Russia and went head to head, we'd suffer some casualties. Like, it would definitely not be a one-sided battle. But they ain't coming here.
No.
And
No.
God only knows, like, people are like, oh, but what about, you know, Russia's nuclear weapons? Like, man, I've seen their fucking conventional weapons. I can't imagine, like, they launch a nuclear weapon, there's like at least a 90% chance it's just going to blow up in the fucking missile silo.
Yeah, I mean, and we're talking about weapon systems that aren't nukes. Like, we don't have a peer that can project power like we can. Like, we can launch an amphibious invasion of pretty much anywhere on the planet because we have like a half a dozen fucking aircraft carriers. I don't even know how many aircraft carriers we have. We have more than everybody else combined, I think. We have more aircraft carriers than the rest of the world. We spend more money on our military than the rest of the world. You know, fuck having, you know, insulin or whatever. Like, we have aircraft carriers. You know, we keep thinking of these things in our head, and we listen to like think tanks whose whole job it is to sell us war. Like, I know Task and Purpose was pushing an article not that long ago. It was like, you know, we're gonna lose the next war against a peer enemy according to this study. Well, the fucking study was done by like General Dynamics. Like, no fucking shit they would say that. That's like saying, you know, according to a study that I found, you're going to die of cancer if you don't buy my book. Like, I feel like my study is a little flawed, but nobody's looking at that. It's completely bizarre.
This is, well, I mean, it's not bizarre. That's how these things work.
Yeah.
And that's how you get the brand new and the brand shiniest and all these things. And meanwhile, all your soldiers are sitting around with their thumbs up their asses or picking up cigarette butts or, you know, jerking off in guard towers and not being trained on any of their stuff. While we continue to like field old stuff. Like, I don't know if you remember when they were fielding M14s into Afghanistan.
Oh yeah,
because the M4s didn't have the range of the M16s, and like, well, give every member in the squad like this Korea War era, you know, fucking long gun so they can reach out and touch somebody if necessary. It's like, just go back to M16s or something. What are you doing? We have a shitload of them. Just fix them.
Yeah,
like upgrade them to A4s. Like the Marines never got rid of the M16s. I know they're moving to something else, but they never went to this fucking snub nosed bullshit like the Army did. It's like, you have these. Well, no, we're gonna go, and it always does come down to like, we go back to the old stuff and things work better because it's just like, you know, it's not as technologically challenging. It's not as difficult to do. You know, they want to field this F-35, and it's like, I don't know what you're trying to tell me that like a Tomcat can't do that, like we would come across. Do you think like a Russian MiG is what's going to really take us out here? Like,
I think at this point they might, because all of our jets take so much time and resources and money to field that, like, if 3 of them get shot down, we're like, oh fuck, we're bankrupt.
Right like that. And that's the thing, like, we aren't winning a war against the Taliban because it's a war against, you know, it's on their turf and it's a war against an idea, and every time we kill one we just make another couple of them. So, but, you know, Bay Systems is going to have a brand new fucking robot dick to put on front of in front of the Humvees or whatever new vehicle they're trying to fucking sell us, and then everything's going to be great and wonderful, and then, you know, you'll get blown up in something brand new.
But Francis, it was called a Rhino. It's different. It totally wasn't an ammo box with a glow plug in it. This cost $10,000 a piece. You know, I'll only forgive all these companies.
I always heard that the Rhino. I always heard that the Rhino was created by a soldier.
It was at first, and then it was mass produced for tons of money.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I wouldn't trust something that a fucking soldier Jimmy rigs in the field. For those of you who don't know, the Rhino is a on the front of Humvees. They would basically put like a box, an ammo box with a glow plug that would get really really hot, and it would be on a long pole on the front of the vehicle. And so what that did, there are IEDs that were triggered by heat, and so the idea was that it would be triggered by the heat of the engine block of a vehicle, and then would wait like a fraction of a second and then blow and then hit everybody on the inside. So people started putting those on the front because it would trigger it and then it would blow before the Humvee got into the kill zone. So that's what the Rhino is, and it was originally, like we said, invented by a soldier who's just like, I bet I can figure out a way to defeat this, and then Bay Systems or whoever mass produced it, and thank God for it. I mean, it's a good IED defeat system, but also it's I don't know, it's just one of those. That was a simple thing that was very good to buy and field out. An autonomous Humvee that's just like filled with blackout windows and a bunch of technology on the inside that's going to get like 4 grains of dust in it and then break down somewhere along some MSR somewhere,
right.
Is not a good idea.
They fielded drones out to us. Like we had a squad used drone that we called a Puma, and this little robot thing that you could fit in your cargo pocket, and then like just chuck it out to like scope out under like culverts and stuff. They were both fucking terrible. Anybody who's read my book has known, like, we literally just sent this Puma flying into people's windows all the time because you couldn't get the fucking takeoff right. And the little IED robot that you put in a culverts, like it would make it 20 feet away and it would just stop working. Like the RC cars from Walmart have a better range than this fucking thing does.
Yeah, you should have just figured out a way to put like a Glock on the front of a radio controlled car or something and rig up a way. Like just put a Glock on it and a really, really long string on the trigger, and then like, drive it up to a suspected IED and yank it really hard and shoot the IED and then drive it on back.
The main weapon we're missing in the global war on terror is a Roomba with a steak knife duct taped to the top of it. that's what we fucking need.
Dude, that would win the war and clean up Iraq.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trash in Iraq.
Yeah.
Suck up a lot of that dust and everything and just really clean it up and then like stab everybody in the ankles.
Yeah, either give me a Roomba with a kitchen knife or give me a fucking Gundam. I don't want any of this in between bullshit.
We have 2 things. We can go completely low tech, or I need a fighting robot.
Absolutely. I don't know where the Japan Self-Defense Force is on this shit.
I should have asked them while I was there. Anyway, Joe, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on. Next time Nick has to go to Japan, have him ask. Get really drunk and start asking the Japanese where the Gundams are.
I know you're keeping them from me.
Well, with cultural. Yeah, I'm sure that'll go over really well with the cultural. Well, they have to keep them from us so that they can fight Godzilla.
They have to look out for the one true like Godzilla enemy that's lurking in the Sea of Tokyo.
Though I think the new Godzilla movie, Godzilla's Our Friend. I don't know. It goes back and forth.
The old switcheroo.
Yeah. All right, Joe. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Like we said, we'll have links. We'll have links in the show notes to pre-order Joe's book. Buy it. It's good. Joe's a good writer. Support the troops. Also listen to his podcast, Lions Led by Donkeys, in which you will learn a lot more than you'd learn from listening to my shit, because Joe actually researches and writes scripts and cares, and I just kind of show up drunk.
I mean, I did have like 3 beers while we were talking, so.
Well, that's fine. I had a little bit of vodka. That's fine. That's understandable. You and I record at night. When I'm recording on a Sunday morning with Nate, then it's called a drinking problem.
No, then it's just called like it's night over there. It's fine.
Technically, it's not. Actually, yeah, I guess it's like a little afternoon drinking, a little day drinking for Nate. And as long as I'm drinking with him, then it works.
I thought day drinking was like the main mode of employment for Londoners these days.
Day drinking and like looking at pictures of sad children or whatever it is. All right, Joe. Thanks for coming on, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us again. As always, you can find us at Hell of a Way on Twitter. Joe, what's your Twitter handle?
I am JCast99.
Yep, and you can find me at ArmyStrang. Donate to both of our Patreons. Give money to everybody. All of your money. Just start doling it out to everybody. But either one that you jump onto, if you join ours or if you join Joe's, you can get into our Discord. We have a lively Discord that's always talking and keeping up on politics and yelling about dumbasses in conservatives and making fun of Ben Shapiro, as we all do. And sure, you got us on YouTube, you got us on Facebook, you got a lot of places that you can find us. So please come and find us and reach out and everything. So Joe, as always, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you all next week.